What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Triple Threat Talk. I'm your host, Connor Ryan. Today is January 8th, 2025. This is episode 19 of the podcast. I hope you are having a great day. I hope you have had a great week so far. In today's episode, we are going to be covering some of the recent storylines within the NBA, some players returning from injury, and also an update with the new Amazon NBA broadcast that is going to be debuting next season. We also have some recap from the Tuesday and Tuesday and Wednesday night games. Sorry about that. And then we will also be going over my list for the top 5 players who I think are the most deserved for their first All-Star appearance this upcoming February. So if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're following along on Spotify, please follow the podcast, leave a comment if you enjoy it. And hey, if you don't agree with something I said, please also leave a comment there. If you are looking for more content from me, you can follow me on X at Talkin' Triple, Instagram at Talkin' Triple, and then on TikTok, I am at Triple Threat Talk 0. I am still looking into getting the podcast onto Apple Music for all the Apple Music users. And yeah, let's just get right into it. First piece of news, the Magic announced that Paolo Banchero is looking to return this upcoming weekend, and most likely tonight, or possibly tonight, against the Timberwolves, if not tomorrow or this weekend in their upcoming schedule. The fact that the Magic are still the 4 seed in the East and staying afloat and winning so many tough games, like playing the Knicks, getting a win at the Garden, beating the Celtics at home, or in Orlando, that is, and being down not only him, but Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, just getting a player who was trending into superstar status in Paolo Banchero for the first couple of games of the season before tearing his oblique, getting him back is huge. The team has definitely found their balance. They've found their identity. The only concern has been their scoring. They haven't had the most consistent offensive production in terms of league standards, in terms of being able to keep up with those high-powered offenses. And getting a player like Banchero back really does elevate them back into that tier of not only just a good playoff team, but a real threat in the Eastern Conference. Everybody talks about how the East is just going to be ran by 2, maybe 3 teams with the Cavs, Celtics, and Knicks. But I do think a fully healthy Orlando team does bring a lot of threats to all those teams. Jamal Mosley has got those guys working so hard on the defensive side of the ball. They are one of the biggest threats in terms of just forcing pressure, causing steals, causing turnovers. And we saw that with the Celtics game a couple weeks ago, right around Christmas time. And getting a true leader, a true superstar type player in Paolo back, getting more offensive production, allowing less stress, I guess, on to your other players like a Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, where a lot of the gravity was more pushed to them when Wagner and Banchero went down. Then it kind of alleviates that stress for them and allows them to get more open looks, allows them to play more freely instead of thinking, oh, I have to be making the shots here. So huge news for the Magic. Also huge news for me because I'm going to be going to the Celtics Magic game a week from tomorrow on the 17th. And I am very happy to hear that Banchero will be playing. And I'm very high on the Magic. I do think that they have the potential to maybe run the table in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if they are on the same tier as the Celtics or the Cavs at this point, but I do think they are in that tier of the Knicks and the Bucks, where wouldn't be surprised if they come through and beat their opponent in a series, but also like not the favorite. A fully healthy Magic team is going to be a problem, and it will be for years to come. And Paolo Banchero is going to be the nucleus of that. Both he and Franz signed big 4-year deals that keep them in Orlando, and they really do have the opportunity to just kind of showcase the basketball world that is best when they are together. It isn't going to be a situation where they need to get broken up for either one of them to succeed. We saw it when Banchero went down, Franz Wagner stepped up, and then when Franz Wagner went down, we saw the rest of the team step up. So the chemistry is there. We see them both being around the team consistently and wanting to be a part of this culture in Orlando. And obviously it will take some time for him to get fully back up to speed. I'm sure he'll be on like a minute restriction to play for the first couple of games. But as soon as he gets back to full strength, then the Magic will become a threat again. They have been. They haven't been a team that has been a pushover. There have been some games where they obviously haven't been shooting the ball and the other team shooting the ball well, and the other team has obviously shot the lights out. But when it comes to those like low scoring, like hard knocks kind of games, the Magic are really good at executing those wins because of their defensive intensity. And if you add the scoring of Paolo Banchero back, then that's where they really become an issue. So very good news out of the Orlando camp there, and just big news for Paolo because he was playing at an absurd level for the first 5 games and tragically gets hurt and is unfortunately then put in a situation where he has to watch his team hopefully contend from the sidelines, and that's what they did. So great news for him, great news for the Magic, and definitely going to be another problem team in the East. Speaking of players coming back, Zion Williamson is back for the Pelicans, and with Zion, it's a lot of the discourse is the failed potential, the lack of care almost, or the lack of enthusiasm that he has to play basketball. And there are times where it appears like that, but you can't control injuries. Like we look back at so many players and the whole what if conversation. What if Brandon Roy is healthy and doesn't just have like a 4 or 5 year career? What if Derrick Rose doesn't blow out his knee? Speaking of, congrats to Derrick Rose on the announcement of getting his jersey retired. What if Greg Oden doesn't get hurt? What if this player, that player? Zion Williamson is going to be in that case, unfortunately. But when he is playing, he is one of the most electrifying players to watch in the NBA. He's one of the more explosive players to watch in the NBA. And the balance that he brings that energy to the Pelicans roster. The Pelicans have been riddled with injuries for the entirety of the season. Starting out the year without Trey Murphy, losing Zion, losing CJ McCollum for a period of time, DeJounte Murray, and then Brandon Ingram was kind of the final piece, and he was kind of staying healthy, and then he tweaks his ankle and is now out for a couple more weeks. A lot of the teams had the Pelicans in a very kind of bubble higher playoff seed spot, but and I know right now they're considered with record, they're the worst team in the NBA, if not one of the worst. And so getting a player like Zion back, sure, not always the most efficient scorer, not always perfect as a player, not a true like top 10, 15 guy, but he adds so much gravity, he adds so much juice to a team that it is better to have him on the floor. I know that there are rumors that he might get shipped out, and hell, he might be playing. This might be like a tryout for certain teams to see if they want to make the move for him. But I do think that Zion Williamson does make the Pelicans better. And I think most people agree with that. It's just the injuries are so hard to ignore. It's so hard to look at it and say, like, this is a superstar. Like we've seen the videos, we've seen the excitement that he brings to the city of New Orleans. It's just the health is the issue. But if we ever get a fully healthy Zion season, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes like an all NBA level player, like third team, maybe even second team. I don't know if he'll crack into that first team, but the overall player that is Zion Williamson is value. And the Pelicans getting him back really does kind of turn their season around, hopefully to lead to better things and not ending up in last place. But I don't think they make the playoffs just because of how deep the West is. Like, we're talking about the Suns being out of the play-in right now, and nobody would have thought of that at the beginning of the season. I didn't think that. I thought they were going to be like a top 4 or 5 team. And right now I think they're 11th. So if he can spark some energy, if he's the first sign of rejoice and kind of revival in New Orleans, then I wouldn't be shocked. But unfortunately, just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and hopefully he does for the rest of the season. And third storyline was Amazon's announcement for next season. They announced that their in-studio kind of halftime pregame show team will be Taylor Rooks, Dirk Nowitzki, and Blake Griffin. If you didn't know, Amazon has a media deal now with the NBA, and that's kind of why the whole Turner Sports thing was happening, where people were questioning, will inside the NBA be coming back? Like, what's going to happen? And before ESPN swooped in and said, hey, we are going to take them under our wing and make them our halftime show slash pregame show, Amazon signed a 11-year deal with the NBA. It has come out to value that it will be $1.8 billion per year. I think they get about 60 plus games. They also get first and second round coverage. And then I think they kind of will alternate with, I think, NBC for the other conference final that isn't on ESPN, because I think ESPN gets a conference final every season, and then obviously they get the finals. 11-year, $1.8 billion is pretty crazy, but I do really like this team. I think Taylor Rooks is really improved. I know she gets a lot of flack for kind of forcing bad takes. I know she doesn't force them, but you know what I mean. And then Dirk Nowitzki, obviously top 15, top 20 player of all time, one of the greatest power forwards of all time. And then Blake Griffin, who has that experience of kind of being sent around to a lot of different teams, and both has the experience of being a number two, being a number one, riding the bench, but just understands the modernness of the game. And same with Dirk. So I think these are two, I think this is a great group. I think this is a very entertaining crew. Will they deliver? I don't know yet. And that's what I'm excited to see for sure. So round of applause to Amazon for sure for this crew. I'm interested to see who is going to be like the in-game like broadcast, but I don't know if that's been announced yet. I know Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit do their Thursday Night Football. I'm sure soon enough we'll be finding out who their main one or two broadcasting teams are. Will it be TNT people? I'm not sure. Will it be some ESPN people? I don't know. But when it does come out, I will obviously let you all know. So let's get into some of the games. Tuesday, very fun night of basketball. 3 games from Tuesday, 3 games from Wednesday, the usual. First game, Celtics defeated the Nuggets 118-106. Kristaps Porzingis played a huge part in this game, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Jason Tatum also played his part with 29 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. Drew Holiday, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And then Jaylen Brown, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Jaylen Brown, I know, struggled out of the gate for the Celtics and wasn't shooting well. And then he very much picked it up in the second half and provided huge points, especially in the third, to help maintain the Celtics lead. Drew is finally finding his rhythm again. I know they were without Derek White in this game, which obviously would have helped, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Jason Tatum, massive, huge production for him. I know people are criticizing I know people are criticizing his shooting percentage. 45% isn't bad at all, actually. But KP was the real difference maker for the Celtics in this one. He brought so much energy. He helped so much on the defensive side within the interior, and also was knocking down the outside shots, and was just a big part for what got them the Celtics lead, and also what helped them maintain it, and then also get that big run at the end of the game to really put it to rest. For the Nuggets, no Nikola Jokic, which I know people are going to throw asterisks at this game and say, you didn't play Jokic, you haven't beat him since blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what? But Russell Westbrook stepped up huge, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. I think he probably shot around 40-something% from 3. I can take a look at that right now. Jamal Murray, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Rush shot 4 of 9 from 3, so over 40%. And it looked like it. I mean, he shot 50% from 3 in the first half. There were times where I was like, the Celtics will sometimes have the defensive mindset of, oh, we're gonna let you shoot it. If you beat us, then reward to you. But usually they're gonna like let the kind of subpar underperforming shooters shoot. And Russ cooked them for the first 2 quarters and somewhat into the third. And then he died off in the later part of the third quarter and the fourth, but definitely was a thorn in the backside of the Celtics for most of the night. Michael Porter Jr., 15 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. This game was very entertaining, for sure. Shout out my good friend Jonah. He was at that game. I was texting him while watching it. The Celtics, I think a lot of the reason why it was as close as it was just because of fatigue. Having a week-long road trip, playing 4 games, they deserve the rest that they're getting. They didn't play Wednesday, didn't play Thursday, don't play tonight on Thursday, and they have their first game back in the Garden on Friday against the Kings. So I do think a lot of the kind of defensive struggle was fatigue. They were so focused on the Minnesota game. They were so focused on the Oklahoma City game that I do think that they came in with the right intensity for this one. It was just the fact that right before tip-off, the announcement that Nikola Jokic wasn't going to be playing, it was similar in the way of how in 2008 when Argentina was playing the U.S. in, I think it was like the semis to go on to the gold medal game, and like they were so focused on Manu that when Manu got hurt and was out for the game, they kind of just like stepped off the gas and they let Argentina get back in. It was kind of the same way where they were playing so well on offense. Like the crowd was so Boston's crowd travels really well. They were able to control the environment very handedly. And then they kind of just let off the gas and they let Denver back into it. And there's always going to be the conversation of the what ifs, but Nikola Jokic didn't play. It's as simple as that. If you want to get into the what ifs world, what if the Celtics shot more consistently? What if they shot around their average 38, 39, 40% from 3? You add 4 or 5 more threes, boom. What if the Nuggets shot at the rate that they usually shoot for threes? Then the same thing could be said. So the Nuggets, it was very funny. The Nuggets played Celtic basketball and kept them in the game. And in the first half, that is, and in the first half, the Celtics played more Nugget basketball. Not as many threes, more interior for the Celtics, a lot more threes, and not as much post play or dribble or just isolation, driving to the hoop and trying to make layups. So that's the identity of styles. That's the simplicity of finding balance in how your offense is going to be. And I do think the Celtics are going to be fine. They're going to make their shots again. I think they just were really tired, and especially playing in Denver, it's never easy. The altitude does have a lot of effect. I lived there for 2 years, and I remember it doesn't take a ton of time to acclimate to it, but I remember the first time I played basketball there, I couldn't breathe. It was very difficult for me to run up and down the court. It already is, but big win for the Celtics. 3-1 on a road trip. That's what I was hoping for. Just a heartbreaker on Sunday against the Thunder, but big win nonetheless. Next game up, the first part of the TNT doubleheader, the Mavericks defeated the Los Angeles Lakers 118-97. The Mavericks came into this one without Kyrie Irving, without Luka Doncic, and without Daniel Gafford. So down 3 starters, and they blew the Lakers out of this wall. Blew the Lakers out of the water in this one. Quentin Grimes led the way for them with 23 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Spencer Dinwiddie, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. PJ Washington, 22 points and 8 rebounds. And Jaden Hardy, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists off the bench. The Mavs don't have an excuse this season. They have the pieces. Najee Marshall didn't play well in this game. He didn't shoot incredibly well, I know. He had some big-time shots and kind of helped with that momentum run at the end of the first half. But the Mavs don't have an excuse. if they have a fully healthy team, they are expected to be back in the finals. It should be them or the Thunder in the finals. Those are the two teams I have in the Western Conference Finals right now, with the Grizzlies right on the outside looking in. But when you have a performance like this with Quentin Grimes, 20-plus points, PJ Washington, 20-plus points, Spencer Dinwiddie playmaking, facilitating the ball very well, and Jaden Hardy hitting, I think it was like they had a stretch in the third quarter where they went five straight threes, and they played tremendous defense. I think they went on a 15-3 run. And so when you have that type of intensity, when you have that type of that dignity within a team, it really does help, especially moving forward. Bench pieces are so much more valuable than they have ever been. Like, a lot of the people make fun of, like, oh, role players, like this, that. We are not in the age where you can have 2-3 stars and win every game. This isn't the Shaq and Kobe era. This isn't the Heatles era. This isn't the Boston Celtics Big Three. This isn't Kobe and Pau. This isn't Dirk and Jason Kidd. You need to have 7 to 8 guys every night contribute. You need 3 or 4 to really stand out, and then you need solid contribution from 3 or 4 more other guys. And that's what they got. That's what they got here. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. LeBron James, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Austin Reeves, 15 points, 2 rebounds, an assist, and 3 steals. An embarrassing loss for the Lakers. It's as simple as that. You can sit here and say, oh, well, Austin Reeves didn't shoot that well. Oh, like this, that. No, it was just sloppy. They did not play well. And I know people can say, oh, well, you're a Celtics fan. Why are you being so critical? I hear Lakers fans every single day on Twitter being like, we're winning it all. We have LeBron and AD. Like, this is the year that they win it again. You got rid of your cancer in D'Angelo Russell. You brought in Spencer Dinwiddie. You brought in Dorian Finney-Smith. You brought in Shake Milton. What's next? Do you have to go get Bradley Beal? Because I don't think you're getting Bradley Beal without giving up, like, Austin Reeves. I don't think there's a fix right now with the Lakers. The same way Pat Riley got tricked into thinking that his roster was good enough with the 2023 finals run is the same way the Lakers got tricked into thinking that their roster is good enough because of the 2023 Western Conference finals run. I know they lost to the Nuggets. I think they got swept in that series. Rob Pelinka said, all right, we're good. We have the team. You didn't have the team. Players are always going to move. Players are always going to leave. Like, there are very few times where you have a team that has 5, 6, 7 main guys locked in for the next 3 or 4 years. The Celtics have that, but Kristaps Porzingis, I think, is on his final year of the contract next season. And so I just think the Lakers are, obviously, they're going to be talked about. They're one of the biggest franchises in sports right now. All eyes are on LA. But this is an embarrassing game. This should have been a game that they say, all right, we win this, we move on. We go play the Hornets next. Which, by the way, that game was postponed. Sending prayers to anybody who has been affected by the fires in LA. My thoughts are with you. But this is a joke for the LA Lakers. I get it. If Daniel Gafford was the only one out, then sure. But no, you got Daniel Gafford out, you got Luka out, and you got Kyrie out. You have one of the best duos in the NBA not playing, and then you have one half of a very talented big man tandem in Gafford and Lively. And you just came up flat. I don't think it's a JJ Redick coaching issue. It might be, but that game is an embarrassment. The fact that to lose by 20 plus to a Mavs team that didn't have 3 of their best players, their 2 best players, and then 4th or 5th best player. If I'm a Lakers fan, I'm embarrassed by that game. Like, just a bad game for them. Final game from Tuesday, the Hawks defeated the Jazz 124-121. Trae Young led the way with 24 points, 2 rebounds, and 20 assists. Another 2020 game for Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, the Great Barrier Thief, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Clint Capella, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks. The main storyline of this game, though, was Trae Young's half-court shot. Like, that was a crazy shot. No Jalen Johnson for them. And just being able, like, that, like, I know that shot was luck, for sure. I'm not denying that. But ice cold Trae, he's cold. And he's cold for a reason. He has those moments. But when you have a game that's a 2020 game that can't go unnoticed. I know a lot of the dialogue with the Hawks this season are like, well, like, are they really that good? They are. I think they are. When you have Trae Young, who I know has been disrespected for many years now, Jalen Johnson, who has been performing incredibly well, and I'll talk more about him later, and Dyson Daniels stepping up. Everyone thought that losing DeJounte Murray was going to be the worst thing for them. In reality, it's been the best thing. Dyson Daniels been playing huge. Larry Nance Jr. has provided solid minutes. I know he was also out of this game. But the Hawks are a very fun and legit team, in my opinion. I know that I don't have them in the top 2 tiers of the East, but they could really cause some strain on some teams depending on who they face. I would love to see a Hawks versus Knicks series in the playoffs. That's just my personal opinion, mainly because the Hawks are always play the Celtics stuff, so I wouldn't have to deal with them in the first round. But I do think the Hawks deserve a little bit more respect. Now, for the Jazz, Lauri Markkanen, 35 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and a block. Walker Kessler, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. And Colin Sexton, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I can't watch the Jazz. Like, it's just, there's so much that they need. Like, Lauri Markkanen is very spotty. Walker Kessler, I wouldn't be shocked if he isn't on the team anymore by the end of the season. Colin Sexton is a solid player. It's just, I think there are times where he doesn't really show his true ability on the court. I know they have, like, Bryce Sensabaugh on there. I know they have Johnny Juzang, Cody Williams. Like, they have a lot of young talent. It's just they haven't been able to put it together. And I don't know if they will for a very long time. I don't know what their best move is. I don't really think it's the best move to keep, like, a Markkanen on that team. But I don't know what team is going to be willing to take that contract. I think Colin Sexton is a firecracker for that team and just really amplifies their offense and kind of just gets the building going. But it's just such a young team. Will Hardy is in his second year of coaching and is still trying to figure out the ropes. But this is a game you have to win if you're a Jazz player. If you're a Jazz fan, like, if you win this game, you're like, all right. I don't even know why I'm giving, like, a full, like, in-depth analysis on the Jazz. The Jazz are going to finish up as, like, one of the worst teams in the NBA. I don't know if they'll get Cooper Flag because I feel like they're going to win some games here and there, and it's just going to be like, all right, we're not the top pick. But it's just tough to watch Utah basketball right now. Simple as that. All right, first of 2 games, for Wednesday's slate. We had an ESPN doubleheader and a potential game of the year candidate so far. The number 1 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers and the number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder faced off against each other in Cleveland. Very highly anticipated matchup. I think the Cavs came into this one with a 10-game winning streak, and the Thunder came into this one with a 15-game winning streak, and the Cavs came out on top. Jared Allen led the way for them, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Evan Mobley, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Darius Garland, 18.7 assists. And Max Strus, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Very quiet game from Donovan Mitchell. Shot very poorly. If it was Jason Tatum, he'd be slandered to all hell. But hey, that's what good teams are. They have balance. They aren't just going to rely on one guy to bring him to the top. The Cavs are just on another level. They are playing so efficiently, such high-powered, high-octane basketball. Their defense I would not put their defense on the same level of, like, the Thunder or the Magic or the Rockets, but if they get a couple stops, if they get a couple steals, a couple turnovers, then you could be tied, and then the next second you blink, and the next second you're down 15 to them. Like so much spacing, so much effectiveness on the perimeter with players like Sam Merrill, Georges Niang, Karis LeVert, Max Strus, and then you balance that out. So you have four players who are pretty solid sharpshooters, and then you have the cycle of Jared Allen and Darius Garland, and then Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. And then when you get to clutch time, it's like, all right, we're going to take one of the five that have been playing extremely well in this game, and then we're going to put the main four in. It's really tough. The thing is just Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I tweeted about it last night. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are the X factors for the Cleveland Cavaliers. For the Boston Celtics last year, the X factors were Jaylen Brown or Derek White and Drew Holiday. For the 2023 Denver Nuggets, it was Bruce Brown and KCP. This season for the Cavs, if they want to be NBA champions, it goes off of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Not only just because of their offensive ability, but their anchoring ability of a defense. They are two of the most effective rim protectors in the NBA. And the scariest part is you never get a moment without one. There are very few times where you look on the court and you say, okay, we don't have to deal with Mobley or Allen. The only reason that would happen is if you get both of them into foul trouble very early on. But that rarely happens because they're very consistent, very stout defensively, and they play with such good form. And then you have scorers like Mitchell and Garland, Karis LeVert, that just help alleviate that stress for them, force so much gravity onto them, causing doubles. And if they get a pass off, like a hook pass or a bounce pass, a pocket pass to Allen or Mobley, it's almost a guaranteed finish. They're two of the best finishers in the NBA at the rim. And Evan Mobley is expanding his game. He is becoming a perimeter player. He can shoot the ball really well. The Cavs, I don't know like where the discourse came from people that said, like, why don't people respect the Cavs? I'll say it, I do. They are one of the toughest teams to play. They have such good balance throughout their entire roster. Even like when one of them goes down, like even if like Isaac Okoro goes down for a night, Georges Niang goes down for a night, they still have the quality of players to bring it back up. Now, God forbid if one or even two of the four gets hurt, then that's where my concern sets in. But right now, no. I don't think there is any concern right now if I was a Cavs fan. I would be on cloud nine. I would be screaming to the heavens and saying, thank you for a healthy year. You have one of the deepest rosters in the NBA. You have players who can help control the offense with such ease and fluidity. And you don't know exactly who it is and when it's going to happen. That really is going to be the difference maker. So, for the Thunder, very solid performance nonetheless. SGA led the way with them, 31 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Jalen Williams, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals. Isaiah Hartenstein, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. And Cason Wallace, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Not only do I think this is game of the year so far, it was the feeling. Like ESPN even like built it up and said, hey, we have SportsCenter for an hour. We're not going to be covering anything that's happened today. We have this game on our schedule, and we are going to cover it, having people interviewed, everything like that. The entire league knew the severity of this game, knew the importance of this game, and we got to see it on full effect. SGA was very effective as always. Jalen Williams finding his rhythm back again. And Isaiah Hartenstein, both Isaiah Hartenstein and SGA had foul trouble late in the game, which kind of was probably some cause for disruption and some offensive disparity. But when you have players like Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Jay Will, Jalen Williams, like that, those are big games. Now, hypothetically, if this were to be the finals matchup, I do think the Thunder pull it, like come out on top. If Chet Holmgren is healthy, like if he is playing He disrupts the Jared Allen, Evan Mobley tandem so much more effectively. He also stretches the floor, pulls him away from the basket, and allows SGA to go to work, Jalen Williams to go to work on dribble drive, and if needed, if the help comes, drive and kick. Chet Holmgren is the X factor for the Thunder. And I know that's kind of weird to say an X factor as the number 2 best player on the team, but it is the importance that he plays in regards to the, like, situationally, at least. You need more big men, and I do think the Thunder should make a move for either a shooter or another true big man, so that if Isaiah Hartenstein comes out, then, or if Chet Holmgren isn't playing, then you have that other big man. I do think shooting, though, is another big priority of theirs. What did they shoot from 3 yesterday? As a team, they shot 35% on 31 attempts. So not horrible. And the other disparity was that Cleveland got to the line more. But, I mean, the Thunder have nothing to hang their hats on. They really did an incredible job so far this season, and they're still going to continue to do an incredible job. It's just, you almost ask the question of, when is too many picks too much? Like, I get it. Like, the importance of having young talent on your roster so that they have some veteran presence and just veteran play to kind of help enhance their game and help get to the point that they need to be at of winning and succeeding at the level that they should be. But this is the youngest team in the NBA, the Thunder are. Isaiah Hartenstein was drafted in 2017, 2018, but this is really like his breakout season, or his second breakout season. Like, he kind of broke onto the scene last year, was incredibly effective for the Knicks, and then signed this big deal, signed a 4-year, $80 million with the Thunder. SGA, I know, is going to be getting a big contract soon. Jalen Williams is in his 3rd year and will also be asking for a new contract soon. So I do think that if they want to win a title this year, they have to kind of put some of the chips into the pot. Like, they have to make a move. Walker Kessler is a very viable option. I don't know what it would take, but I don't think the Jazz would say no to a couple more picks. Cam Johnson, I know, is one of their big targets, just playing really well for the Nets right now, and I think would really help the outside shooting for the Thunder. So I'm not worried about the Thunder. I still have them coming out of the West, but just a really, really great game from these two teams. The second half of the ESPN doubleheader was between the Milwaukee Bucks and the San Antonio Spurs. The only question I really had with this game was, why did it start so late? Because I know that they usually will have, like, I live on the East Coast, for those that don't know. Usually with ESPN, their first game will start at like 7, I'm putting air quotes around that, probably closer to 7:15. And then you have, like, usually a West Coast game that is then like, oh, it starts at 10 and you get prime time for the West Coast. This game started at 8:30 in Central Time, 9:30 on the East. Like, I'm not arguing the East Coast time. It's more so that just seems really late for the start of a Central Time basketball game. Like, Cleveland was also in Central Time. So, I don't know. It was just a random thought. But Bucks win this one, 121-105. Giannis Antetokounmpo led the way, 25 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. Damian Lillard, 26 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. And Brook Lopez, 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Giannis played incredible this game. I know the scoring number isn't as high as some Milwaukee fans would want, but the importance of his performance was locking up Wemby. Victor Wembanyama had 7 points in the first half. He had 7 points in the first quarter and didn't score again in the second quarter. I think he hit a 3 in the third quarter, and then after that, he didn't have any more points. Like, to silence Victor Wembanyama is really hard to do. But the Bucks do have one of the best players to do that. And Giannis is made to guard Wemby. 6'11", 7 foot, just big, broad, pure muscle who isn't someone that you can just throw around or that Wemby is going to easily like get past. Like, we all know the caliber of player that Giannis is. We all know the style of play that he is, and we all know the intensity that he brings. He is the heart and soul of that Milwaukee team. And he has had a combination of players playing around him. He's had Chris Middleton by his side for so long. He had Drew Holiday for a couple of years. Brook Lopez has been there for 5-6+ years. I think this is actually his 7th season with the Bucks. And I'll talk more about him in a minute, but Giannis will always be able to work with what the team gives him. They needed shooting to help supply kind of the influx of pressure on the interior on Giannis. And so what did they do? Got Gary Trent Jr., got Taurean Prince. AJ Green has really been stepping up his role and has had a collection of games where he has really helped carry that offense. But when you have a game, 25 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists, and then Damian Lillard supplies 26 points for you, that's huge. Like, that is a winning formula. But the player that I think really stood out in this game was Brook Lopez. I have always had a take with Brook of not so much a take on Brook, but more so the position of the center. Sure, when you have a Rudy Gobert, when you have a Walker Kessler, when you have, I'll even throw him in this conversation, a Draymond Green, where damn near not effective or very little efficiency from the perimeter in terms of shooting, it doesn't really, like, I almost feel like that kind of center is being phased out. We're seeing the more kind of Kristaps kind of tier, like Domantas Sabonis, I know doesn't really have the most effectiveness from 3, but he can shoot. I know Bam Adebayo has started to kind of incorporate a 3-pointer more into his game. Joel Embiid developed a 3-point shot. But Brook Lopez, I can't think of it's him and Al Horford that I think are the 2 players that have saved their career the most by developing a 3-point shot. I know Brook was like the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year a couple seasons ago. But when you look at the body of work, not incredible footwork, not incredibly quick, not the fastest mover, very tall, very large defender. So that made him very effective on the defensive side of the ball. But on the offense, it was always like, all right, you got to post up. He had the mid-range. He had the turnaround kind of face-up mid-range on lock. And also with his height, it was just incredibly hard to defend. But getting the 3-point shot, which he really started to develop once he came to Milwaukee with Mike Budenholzer, that has changed his career. I know he's kind of experimented it in the one season he had with the Lakers, but he has become a legitimate force. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that Brook Lopez is a top whatever player, but he is a major difference maker. You want to talk about X factors, Brook Lopez. Like, when he is shooting well and allowing himself to get back to the post position or wherever he needs to on the defensive side of the ball, when you have any sort of momentum and they get a trailing Brook Lopez, you have to have somebody ready to step out on him. And when you get 22 points and 2 blocks, that is huge. He went, let me check how many threes he had. He went 5 of 11 from 3. Like, that is huge production from a player like Brook Lopez. So shout out Brook. Shout out the Bucks for a big win. For the Spurs, Wemby was just silenced. He did not shoot the ball well. He just couldn't get anything going. He shot 40% from the field. But the big thing is only 10 attempts. So he only went 4 of 10. And I think a big part of that was just Giannis. Giannis contained him incredibly well. Chris Paul led the way for them, was a big part for them, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Keldon Johnson led the way for them in scoring, 24 points, 11 rebounds. So I do think the Spurs are on the right track, for sure. I think that they are trending in the right direction. My only concern with them is, who is that next player? Obviously the Wemby production will continue and will only seem to get better. Chris Paul has been a huge asset for this team. Chris Paul isn't going to be playing much longer. Like, I don't know if I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Paul retires after the season. But at best, I think next season is his last. And so who's going to be like the true second, third, fourth guy? I think Stephon Castle has potential to be that guy for sure. I just don't think he's ready to be in that position just yet. I think Devin Vassell is improving his game very, very rapidly. Keldon Johnson can play a huge part, but you'll always have questions about those players. Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson aren't the most effective defender. Stephon Castle isn't the most effective scorer. So who is going to be kind of that third young guy with Wemby, with Castle to kind of really build this culture back, build a winning culture back into San Antonio? Hopefully Popovich is coaching again soon and can I don't know if right the ship is the right term, because I don't think it's going to be a scenario where they are going to be like a legit contender in the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they're a play-in team, but I don't know if they're going to be a team that is really going to be running the table. So I don't know. We still a lot of time to find out. So yeah. All right. Final part of the episode. The second round of All-Star votes came in. Nothing really major has changed in terms of the voting list. I know Jason Tatum is creeping up onto being the third or the second highest, most popular vote for the NBA All-Star list, but I want to look at who I think are the 5 most deserving players to be first-time All-Stars. I do have some honorable mentions. Alperen Sengun for the Rockets, 100%. I'd be shocked if he gets one. I think he's all deserving for it. He has really stepped up his game. He stepped up his leadership, stepped up his defense, and is a crucial part, and I think is the reason why the Rockets are in the position that they are in the West. So shout out to Sengun. There are a couple players like Franz Wagner, Chet Holmgren, who I would have had on here if it wasn't for injuries. But unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. So I don't think that they will get it just due to timetables. And the other like first time one that is like truly like that I'm not even going to bring up, Victor Wembanyama. Like, I think everybody knows he's going to get in. I think I'm more looking at like some players who are kind of on like the fringe that you may not exactly know where, or like, I think they're more like second choice, like kind of the after the fan vote choices. Wemby's 4th in the front court in the West, only behind Jokic, KD, and LeBron. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the fan vote, but these are the 5 guys that I have that I think should get it. 5 players that I think should be getting an All-Star, or at least are very deserving of it. I don't really have an order. I just have 5 guys listed. So Jalen Johnson is one of them for sure, averaging about 20 points per game, over 10 rebounds for the Atlanta Hawks with 5 assists and over a steal or over 1 block per game and 1.5 steals per game. What a leap he has taken. For sure a contender for most improved player. Just somebody that was extremely doubted coming out of high school, coming out of Duke, fell in the draft because of just like not really playing as much as people thought he would, and really has stepped into an extremely comfortable role with the Hawks. Quinn Snyder has done an incredible job with him, not only as developing, but as kind of just figuring out his role. Sure, not the most effective shooter from 3, but just somebody who I think really encapsulates the game incredibly well. Can score, can drive, can play make, very solid defensively. And you can say that benefits from having a player like Dyson Daniels around him, and Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella. But you can feel the absence of Jalen Johnson when he isn't playing in games. And I do think that he is having his breakout season. And I'm sure a lot of people are saying that, but it's just the truth. He is an incredibly talented player. He deserves the recognition, and somebody I would love to see in Golden State this upcoming February. Next up is J-Dub, Jalen Williams for the Thunder. When the Thunder lost Chet and still didn't have Isaiah Hartenstein back from his injury his surgery from over the summer, The Oklahoma City Thunder had to run a very small ball heavy lineup with, I think the usual lineup was SGA, J-Dub, Alex Caruso, Kaysen Wallace, Isaiah Joe. Like that would kind of be like the main five. And J-Dub was a huge part of kind of playing the interior. His leaping ability, his defensive instincts are incredible. But what he has really stepped up as is a scorer, as a number 2 option during the period which Chet was out. I do think Chet is the number 2 for the Thunder. But J-Dub is really stepping in and playing his role. Just under 21 points per game, around 6 rebounds and 5 assists per game, with just under 1 block and nearly 2 steals averaging throughout the season. That value is incredibly important. Like, it's super crucial. It's super insightful to seeing this kind of player having this step up. So shout out to J-Dub and shout out to an unreal season so far. Third one I think is pretty obvious, and I'm a huge advocate for this player. If you hear any tapping in the background, that's my dog Duncan. Should we get a Duncan check on the episode? Give me a sec. For those of you that don't know me, this is Duncan. He's a Westie. He's the love of my life. He's the little goober, the little fluber, just a little polar bear. But no, this guy rocks, and he wants me to end the pod soon so we can play. I'm going to get through these last players just pretty quick. Cool? By the way, he's 15 for reference. Okay, yep, I got you, bub. Give me a sec, Dunk, I got you. Third player up, everybody know, I talked about him last episode. It's Cade Cunningham. 24 points per game, career high in points per game, career high in rebounds per game, and a career high in assists per game. Cade Cunningham is the engine in leading the Detroit Pistons to above 500 basketball right now. I never thought I would say that. Like, he is playing at such a high level, playing such effective basketball, and deserves to be in an all-star game. For sure. No question about it. His shot-making ability, shot creating, playmaking ability, he is just one of the most exciting players in the NBA. I don't know why he is ranked, like his odds are so low for most improved player. I don't think most improved players should be considered in the all-star. I think it should be like, hey, I stepped up from being like a role player to a fringe all-star. Derek White for the past couple seasons, I think, is a good example. I don't think it should be like, hey, I was like solid and then I really took my next step in my second season. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. I think Jalen Johnson should win it, or Dyson Daniels. I don't know. Fourth up, Tyler Hero. 24 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 5.1 assists on 41% from 3. He is keeping the Miami Heat afloat, for sure. He has been incredibly important for that team, incredibly important for that offense that has struggled, for sure, at times. Bam Adebayo hasn't found his footing very consistently. Jimmy Butler has been out, and he still is due to the suspension. And Tyler Hero is a massive part of that reason and why they are still in the playoff contention. And finally, the only reason I'm speeding this up is because of Duncan. So sorry about that. Finally, Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley, just under 19 points per game, just around 8.5 rebounds per game, 3 assists with a block and a half per game and 1 steal. I'm a huge Evan Mobley supporter. I think he's going to be an incredible player. And I think we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg for the type of player Evan Mobley is. His introduction to kind of finding more ability to step out and take more threes is massive. His playmaking has been very improved. I do think that he deserves a spot on the All-Star team. So that is the list. That is the episode. I hope you all have an incredible weekend. Enjoy football, enjoy some basketball, whatever it is you want to do. Have a great one. Player for today, James Posey, Celtic and Heat legend. I'll see you all on Tuesday for the next one, maybe featuring a special guest. I don't know yet, but I will see you then. Peace out.